Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. Today I had Connie Paglianiti on the podcast, and she shares a story of raw courage, resilience, and transformation. A journey that took her from dreams of a bright future to the depths of addiction, and ultimately to a path of redemption. Growing up far from roots in Italy, Connie faced challenges that shaped her life in ways that she never anticipated. She opens up about her hidden battle with gambling addiction, which spiraled into a staggering betrayal that cost her clients over $6 million and led to a life-altering fall from grace, including time spent in prison. Connie's story is it's so much about it's just as much about survival as it's about healing. She shares deeply personal reflections of her childhood dreams, the success that she would envision, the devastating impact of losing the trust of those closest to her. She speaks candidly about life behind bars, facing isolation, bullying, and the painful realities of, reintegration, while bearing the weight of her past choices. Today, though, Connie is committed to shedding light on the realities of addiction and advocating for compassion over judgment. In her hopes of helping others find their way back, she's planning a podcast and an online course aiming to support those who might be struggling in silence. Her journey is a powerful testament to the human spirit's resilience and a story that might just change the way we think about addiction, forgiveness, and the path to second chances. It's an amazing conversation. We dive deep. We'll be right back with Connie. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Connie Paglianiti, thank you for joining me on Leading Our Own Way. How are you feeling tonight?
Really good. Really great. I had a great day, so I'm feeling terrific.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining me on my journey. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I've been waiting for this night for quite a long time because you have one hell of a story, and I'm so excited to share your journey. But before we begin, what is currently your mission? Because you're on a bit of a mission right now. What is it?
I am on a bit of mission. I'm on a mission to get on the TEDx stage to spread the word, to remove the stigma and shame from gambling addictions, from addictions in general, but definitely gambling, because I think that's worse than drugs and alcohol. People seem to feel sorry for them, but when it comes to gambling, that's why people are not coming forward. There is such a horrible stigma. And if you end up in jail because of it and you come out, you can't find work. So there's quite a number of things. I want to get my message out to employers as well. If you believe somebody's got an addiction, help them before they go down the wrong path. And then if they do go to jail, give them a second chance in life.
And that, for the viewers, is going to become very, very clear of why you've just mentioned all of those points. If I ask you, for anyone who's just tuning in then, if I could ask you to sum this episode and your journey into maybe 3 or 4 words, or a small phrase, or just a small sentence, how would you word that?
How would I word my mission?
Your journey, like your journey, your representation of a journey in just a few words, because it's one crazy...
Breaking chains, just 2 words. Breaking chains.
I'm gonna bring up the picture actually, because that symbolizes something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. This is a nice little touch, actually, Connie.
Well, that's the cover of my book, which I've almost finished it. So it's from the shadows into the light, and basically it's about breaking chains. Because unfortunately, life is not easy. We all got a different story to tell, some more dramatic than others. We all make mistakes, some bigger than others. I think I've made a huge mistake. I paid for it. Now I need to get on with my life and hopefully along the way help others. Even if I help one soul, that will make me feel so much better.
Yeah, beautiful.
But at least I paid that price for a reason.
Yeah. Again, going to come very, very clear, and I can't wait to dive deep into it. But a bit of fun, lightheartedness. One of the pictures you sent me about the TEDx talk, we have something very in common around that, because I've not gone this far, but I'm going to go this far. You've sent me a picture of you superimposed in
I
front of.
did, because as they say, put it up on the wall and it will happen. And that's what I want to do.
Well, I've mentioned this on a few other episodes, and the guests will be like, "Oh, here's this bloody sticker." But look what I've done.
TEDx talk. I like mine better.
And so do I. I'm very
It's
jealous.
more visual.
No, I thought mine was good just to train my brain through neuroplasticity to go that way, but yours is one step further.
Yep.
So, but I do have this, a guest who's coming out in a few weeks, actually. Well, it would have been out already by now by the time this is aired, but I'm going to have to put yours next to his, just to help me, stay motivated and disciplined on my own journey.
It's on top of mine. So, get rid of mine and put yours on.
I will. I'm going to do it.
I'll send you yours and I'll do it for you.
Well, Connie, again, thank you for joining me on Saturday night here in Australia, because you are from Melbourne, and we met through one of my other guests as well, Alex Ward, who was probably published a few months ago now, maybe weeks. I don't know. We'll see. But first of all, then, how would you say you're leading your way, Connie?
How I'm leading my way? Well, basically, I'll be 67 in a couple of months, believe it or not. But this year I have gone back to uni. So I'm the grandmother at the university. So all the young kids, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, it's quite challenging.
Yeah.
And that's to get that little piece of paper for diploma in event management. I've got over 40 years of event management experience. I've done some really amazing events with some really top-notch names. And I want to teach it. I want to teach it to the younger generation or anybody that wants to get into event management, how to go about doing really exciting events, and how to get to A-listers as well. I'm also doing public speaking, and part of the public speaking is to talk about my story, like I said. So it's twofold. The public speaking is not to make money, that's to help people. Hopefully the other side of event management learning online is hopefully will be my saving grace financially, because I'm strapped financially because of my errors in life, and pays the bills hopefully. But at the moment I'm struggling because I know we're going to go into it a little bit deeper later, but I have just come out of jail, nearly 2 years ago. And finding work when you've got a criminal record is impossible, especially in this country, unless you want to go and do menial work. And there's nothing wrong with doing menial work, but at my age, I just can't physically. But also I need to be motivated. I need to use my creativity. And doing menial work is not really challenging for me.
Yeah.
You might make a couple $100, but it's not going to challenge me.
It is hard, absolutely, and I'm really sorry for the things you have been through, and I know you're very remorseful of what you're doing. And to be fair, I've never run an episode like this before, but you've just mentioned about you coming out of jail, recently in the last 2 years. Just tell us quickly then, because again, I know you said we will go into it, and we will, but tell us why you went to jail in the first place.
Like I said, I used to run amazing events and I attracted all types of people. They all wanted to be at my events, wanted to work with me, etc. So I met this person whom I thought was on the same path as myself. And we became business partners, not realising that he was not what he said he was. He said that his old man was the richest person in Italy, that nothing moved in and out of Italy unless his father signed for it, all this stuff that I believed, and a lot of people still believe it today. So anyway, I went into business with him, and we went to do an event at the Royal Exhibition Building, and he kept spending money but wasn't putting money into the business. By the time I was awake to it, it was basically too late. We were in debt over $1 million, which I pulled money out of my house mortgage, refinanced it, all my credit cards, etc. But it wasn't enough to pay for that. So I still had over $400,000 to pay. So I had a client for over 20 years because originally my business started as a financial management business, doing bookkeeping, payroll, and that sort of stuff. And although I went into event management, I still kept them on as client. So I had access to all their accounts. So I couldn't see a way out of these debts. So I stole money from my client to pay the debts. That got me into a depressive state that I started gambling. I did go to the pokies beforehand, but it was more of a social thing. But this got me down. So I started going more and more. So by the time I paid the debts and stole that money to pay the debt, I was also stealing to pay for my gambling. And then once the debts were paid, I still stole more and more and more money to pay for the gambling. I was fixated with these bright lights, with this noise. It was, I don't know if you've ever been in front of a pokies, but basically you sit there and you press a button and you don't have to think about anything else. You can be yourself. Whereas in real life, I had a different personality. I was bright, happy. People thought I was successful, happy-go-lucky and that sort of stuff. But that wasn't me when I started doing these things. I was actually broken inside. I was crushed. So the only place I could actually be myself was at those pokey places, the casino or wherever it was, and just sitting in front of those machines and just pushing buttons and hoping that I would win the $1 million, etc. But of course, you never do. You always lose. And eventually in 2018, I got caught. I got served. And 15 months later, I got jailed for 2.5 years. And 2.5 years was on the bottom. 4 years was on the top. Originally, when I went to see my lawyer and a barrister, I was told that I would be looking at minimum 6 years to 10 years. So when we got 2.5 on the bottom and 4 on top, they were quite happy. I mean, so was I, but it just ruined me. It ruined my reputation because I was everywhere. I was on the news. I was the news break all day. I got called a degenerate by a reporter even after I came out of jail. Certain people that were hanging around me because of my events basically were calling me a criminal. I remember a friend of mine said to me that a mutual friend said to her, "Why are you still talking to that criminal?" And this is a person that I was there for them night and day. Even my husband said, "Why you keep taking calls after midnight? Oh, they need me." And then when I needed them, they weren't there. My true friend stuck by me. My husband stuck by me, although I did say to him, I didn't expect him to. But like he said, "That's not you, Connie. You made a mistake." And I appreciate that. I think my biggest concern was my son because he wasn't even 16 at the time. And the night I got served papers, it was 8 o'clock on a Monday night in September 2018. And my son went to open the door. And they asked me by name. So he called me out. I went to the door. I knew it was all about because I knew I got caught the day that it happened. I opened the door. They asked if it was me. I said yes. And they said, "Okay, you've been served." I got the papers and I ran straight to my room. My husband and my son followed me and they said, "What were you served with?" And I said, "Nothing." I was still trying to hide it because they had no idea. None of my friends had any idea. None of my family had any idea, and certainly not my husband and son. But I still tried to hide the fact of what I had done. I don't know why or how I was going to make it go away. Eventually, they kept pushing and I broke down and I told them the truth. Well, if you saw their face, yeah, it was heartbreaking. And the words that my son said, the first words he said, "Mum, don't do anything stupid. I need my mother." And that really broke my heart, because I had thought of, during all this time that I was stealing, to take my life away. But I kept thinking about my son, and that night when he said those words, I knew I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do that to him.
If that night, I know we'll probably meet back round at that loop. Thanks for sharing that. And I want to go back to what you're doing now, but before we do, in total, how much money did you take?
Over 6 mil.
Wow.
It was a lot of money over the 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gone online a little bit recently. I try and not do much research on my guests, because I want my reactions to be authentic. I do the pre-checks, as you know, and I get brief pieces of information. But I suppose I looked on YouTube and I looked at the videos, and it seemed intense. It seemed, with all those video reporters, the cameras following you, and the way they highlight it with videos with you, certain celebrities. And I know we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly don't remember. I was here in Melbourne, Australia at the time, and I don't ever remember seeing you. And if I did, I obviously haven't made that connection.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems so real.
It was so intense. It was.
Oh my Lord. I watched it and I got goosebumps, because I take my mind back to when you see those type of videos and you just think, wow, you just get that perspective of watching it. I now know you, and I just don't see that.
It's not me. It wasn't me.
I know. I just, what I'm trying to say. I just don't see that in you. I see what you're trying to give now and what you're trying to do. I can't ever imagine you doing it, is my point, because we've had such a long chat prior, and we're obviously going to have a bit of a chat tonight. But I just can't fathom, get into my head how that is you on the camera when I watched it. And it's like a real news article, like when you're watching the news every night, and now I'm speaking to you here. It's bizarre to me, because I just don't see the connection. What good then? Let's break down what you're doing now, how you try and lead in your own way now. What are you trying to do to the world? Because you said you're trying to change the stigma around it. Let's talk about that then, because I think that's a really key point. What are you trying to do now?
Well, there's a lot of, especially young men between 18 and 35, that are big gamblers.
Yeah.
They can't admit it because of the stigma. It's like, and I'm going to bring domestic violence into here. Women have lots of places to go, and they believed and accept it. But when it's a male being in a domestic violence, one, that don't come out because of the shame. Because how can a woman beat a man?
Mm-hmm.
And the same with the gambling side. I did a talk at Headspace a few weeks ago, and they have a lot of youth under 18 through their programming. And that's one thing they said. We need to help these young people, because they can't talk about it, because they do get shamed. If you tell somebody that you're a gambler, well, it's your stupidity. You know, nobody's dragging you to do those things. And they're not. But once you get in that situation, they actually suck you in. And you don't realise it. And it's actually getting worse now, even more so, because of the internet gambling. I mean, Australia's got 26 million people. We have over 140 platforms, online platforms for gambling. America's got over 300 million people. They've got just over 40 platforms.
It's crazy.
How do you work that one out?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been looking into... as you know, I've been studying a bit about the brain over the last 2 years and studying the human physiology. The same physiological response from what you mentioned before with drugs and alcohol and the addiction attached to that. Gambling is the same physiological response inside the body. There's no difference. But like you said before, anyone who's going through drugs, there's still obviously some judgment with those people. But as you mentioned in our pre-chat, there's support for those. And there's a sense of feeling sorry for them. And let's get them on the right track.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think with the addiction side to the gambling, it's kind of, you just got to pull yourself out of that. Come on. When you're ready, you pull yourself, that sort of mentality towards it. I've sensed that power when I've been to the casino. And for anyone who doesn't know outside of Australia what pokies are the casino, or where you go to the machines to put your money in and pull the coins and do all that type of thing. Because pokies, that word doesn't get used in England.
I found out.
Yeah. So just to clarify for the Northern
Yeah.
Hemisphere,
What I call them? Yeah.
casino tables,
Yeah, no,
slot
they're slot
machines.
machines. Yeah.
Yeah, slot machines. So, yeah, you're trying to do a lot in this space. What you writing a book? You've written a book, haven't you?
I've almost finished it.
Almost finished.
It was supposed to be out, but I'm having issues because I started from the beginning and I finished up to chapter 8, but it's from the chapter where I got myself into this trouble that I'm finding it really difficult to sit down and put it all on paper because it's still so fresh in my head and it's still so painful. So I'm actually having a chat on Wednesday with the publishers in America that I want to delay it till later next year. It's about March, April, May. Yeah.
Because of how hard it is.
It is very hard. Plus, because of my studies, I'm putting in 40, 50 hours a week on my studies at university, and that finishes in November, thank God. So I can get some of my hours back. And then I'm doing the workshops to do the public speaking. Plus, I'm also part of the Gamblers Help program Respin. So I actually go out and talk about the gambling addiction, not only to the people that are addicted, but also to their family and friends as well. And I've also done a couple of interviews with various different papers. The Guardian is one, and the other one is Marie Claire. That's coming out soon. And they do ask you, do you want to be anonymous or not? And as much as it hurts putting my name and face out there, I said, no, it's got to be a name and it's got to be a face. Because I know when I read things and it's anonymous, I think, are they really real? Whereas it's like the black fires. Remember the black fires we had here in Melbourne quite a few years ago? It was really tragic, seeing it on TV, etc. But I didn't know anybody that got killed, etc., until they said Brian Naylor was burnt. He was a newsreader that I grew up with. They showed his face. He was burnt with his wife. And then he hit home.
Yeah.
Right? Because I put a face. And I remember that. And since then, I always said, no, I'm going to put my name and I'm going to put my face, because then people know it's a real person. It's not a made-up person. It's not a dear, whatever they call them, dear auntie letter.
I think you putting your name on it adds value to what you're doing though as well, doesn't it? It adds value to when you do go and do these speeches. They can see your feelings, and you being vulnerable tonight on the podcast, people are going to see it. People need to feel it. People need to feel the energy. And even the people who you may have hurt, if they watch it, they maybe, hopefully we can get them to think about it differently and think about you differently in the situation, and have some remorse. And so, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your workshops. No, actually, I want to go back to the studies. You were back at university, but you've got all this experience. Are you finding this study pretty comfortable, or has things changed?
I find it very boring, actually.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's nice to be amongst young minds, because although I'm 67 almost, I don't feel it. I don't act it. I feel a lot younger.
And you don't look it, Connie.
Oh, thanks. I'll send you the cakes later. It's also getting their perspective as well, and it's also guiding them, which is really good. The teachers actually ask me, what do you think, Connie? Connie, you should know about this, that sort of stuff. So I'll bring my experience in as well. Am I learning anything new? Not really. But I'm learning how not to do things when I teach people.
What are some of those things?
Some of those things, when you do a TAFE course or a diploma through TAFEs or university, the criteria is really it's such, how would you call it? Such a bookworm type of criteria. Everything is, you've got to tick all these boxes.
Hmm.
For example, HR. Now, yes, you might have to employ people, but you don't go through the whole thing unless you're a big organization. If you're a small organization, you say, I need this, this, and this. And normally they're contractors, not very few, sorry, not very many people hire full-time or part-time staff in event management, because it's one of those jobs where it's seasonal, it's come and go. So they spend far too much doing that. The other one was, for example, budget. The budget we've got to do now, it's almost like doing an accounting course. Now, you've got to know the basics. You've got to be able to know how to do your costings. You've got to be able to know how to read a profit and loss. But you don't have to go into so much detail, because normally if you're such a large organization, you've got people doing it for you. If you're a small person, they're very basic. They're not so complicated. It's
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. They
Yeah.
spend more time on the creativity and delivering the event, and practice makes perfect. And even after 40 years, look, events stuff up all the time. You've got to make sure that the audience doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what's going wrong. You know it's out of time, but the audience should not have any idea that it's going wrong or it's out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. The
Mm.
people on your course, do they know who you are?
My teachers do. About one of the young girls that I think I've adopted her as my daughter.
Oh,
I told her straight about 6 months ago, halfway through the course. I think she was a bit shocked because, like you said, I don't come across as that, but she's fine. Then I told another three, four kids. And then one day we were doing a workshop, a conference for the university as part of our curriculum. And I had Kaylee Chu there, and she's my mentor and my coach. And she said, Connie, you get up there and talk. And I thought, oh, geez, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, not in front of students. Anyway, she got me up there talking, and I actually opened it up.
wow. How
Mm.
did that go?
Really good, really good. Yeah, nobody's judging.
That's great.
I think it's more the people that have been through my life or through my events that are judging me,
Mm.
rather than the young ones. I don't
Yeah,
find the young ones as judgy as some of the older ones.
sure. What about the teachers? Do you feel judged by the teachers? Are they pretty cool with it all?
They're fine.
That's
They've
great.
been great. They've been great.
That's so good.
Um, they said anytime I need help, etc. I thought I would struggle, but no, they've been fine. They've been absolutely wonderful. Yeah,
Sounds like they're coming to you for some advice too.
sometimes, yeah.
When you've had some of the celebrities you've had over, I think they need to probably learn from you.
Oh, I don't know about that. Two of them, one, funnily enough, two of them work at the Crown
Oh, do they?
as event person. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So
No
that's
way.
interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Well, they definitely can learn from you of what not to do.
Yeah, don't steal money.
Well, I wasn't mean so much that, more like the root cause of getting into the addiction side, like you were before with the lights and things like that.
Mm.
Not so much the stealing, or but more, yeah, probably more like the pre-gamble
Yeah.
addiction side of
Yeah.
things. Because
I
if you're
think
there all the
working in
time,
a place, it's different. And if, look, I haven't been gambling now for 6 years. I've
yeah,
been clean since September 2018. I've got a pokie place just around the corner here, 5 doors up. I don't go in.
yeah, well,
Um,
don't feel
because
that need to.
well, no, because what drove me to gambling is no longer there.
Yeah, yeah,
And I always believe addictions, there's always a cause that gets you there, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or gambling. There's always a reason. There's always an underlying reason underneath.
yeah,
And that's not there. I don't have to hide things from my husband anymore. That was I don't have secrets from people, but that was one secret that I did. And I was getting migraines. I wasn't sleeping. I was always tired. That's all gone.
cause you a lot of stress.
I'm
Yeah,
still in dire strait financially. I'm strapped. We're still struggling here because we've got a huge mortgage.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, we're happier too because there's no secrets.
yeah. I can relate to that. I
Mm.
can relate to that. I have no money also, but I'm the happiest I've ever been. So I
Yeah.
can relate to it for sure.
Actually, people ask me, do I miss my old life? Not really. Like, with the Melbourne Cup now carrying all these reminders, etc. I look back and I think, do you miss that? No, I don't. I don't miss getting dressed up. I don't miss going out. I actually enjoy staying home. Whereas before I didn't. I didn't want to be home.
So
Did you?
paint that picture then for us, Connie, for those who don't know who you are and outside of Australia as well, for those viewers. What sort of life did you used to lead?
I've always been from an early age, once I started going out, because I wasn't allowed out being Italian and Southern Italian with a very strict dad.
Mm.
Um, I was going out 7 nights a week, socializing. Uh, in the late 70s, 80s, I had a different nightclub for every night of the week, live bands, etc. Theatre, I love theatre. So I used to go to live theatres all the time, the cinema, um, traveling. And I did it till the year that I got caught.
Yeah, wow.
Hmm.
And you obviously had a family in between all of that as well. How did they not miss you not being in the house?
Because I've always been like that. That was part of the deal with my husband. When I had my son, I stayed home a week and then he took over and I went out working.
Wow. And you didn't
Uh,
mind?
oh, he loved it. I had to kick him out of the house. Eventually I said, no, you've got to go back to work.
What did your husband do?
He's in IT.
And still in IT now?
Yeah, I met him through the art centre. He used to work at the art centre of Melbourne.
Yeah.
And because all my life I've always done charity work. Fundraising, etc. So I was doing fundraising for the Arts Centre, assisting them. And he was their business manager. And they did a big gala where we raised over $1 million back in those days. And then the second year, he rang me again to see if I could help. And that's how we started.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And just whilst we're on the moment, the section where we're talking about how you're leading your way at the moment, you're doing some practice public speaking, and did you enter a bit of a competition once? Was that, did I get that right?
That was the Toastmasters International just
That's right.
recently. Yeah, I was surprised. I came in third because I
Yeah,
only just
amazing.
started and they were seasoned speakers. And they give you a topic just before you get on stage. So you've got to think quickly and
Oh,
you're not allowed to know what the others have said. So you wait outside. And when it's your time, you come in and then they tell you the topic.
wow. I was about to say what was your chosen topic, but what was your topic given to you?
I'm trying to remember now.
Sorry.
What would I tell my young self? Something like that.
Oh, you'd have
Uh,
loads to say on that.
Apparently, I did all right.
Yeah, you did all right. Came third.
I'm a quick thinker
Quick thinker.
and a gift of the gab.
Yeah, I've become a bit of a quick thinker, having to pose questions in little gaps of the interview process. So I'm getting there. I feel like I'm improving. I've been told I've improved anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. No,
It's perfect. But you
y-
never want to be perfect either.
no, I don't. I don't. You know what? I was work. It's funny you say that because I was working so much on my erms. I listened back to my erms in the early episodes. I was like, I've got to earn. I've got to work on that. I've got to work on that. And then the more I've met actual, even like politicians now with social media, you used to meet a president and it used to be prim and proper, but now you see, not that I've got no opinion on the show, but you see Donald Trump and these people on Joe Rogan and then themselves, and it seems to win them over,
Yeah.
right? So I get it. I don't mind keeping a couple of worms in there.
No, there's
Shows
nothing
you're
wrong with that.
human,
'Cause in
doesn't it?
real life, you do say, yeah,
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
I love that. I love that the professional side of every moment is kind of disappearing because that's how I've internally always felt. It's weird. I've always said, no, I want people to see me for who I am, not me faking it in front of whether it's thousands or millions of people. I want people to see me for being me. I actually imagine myself on the TED Talk, and they'll probably get shouted at for doing this, but I actually imagine myself, if it was a stage, sitting on the edge of the stage, not standing on the red spot. I'll probably get shouted at by TEDx. I probably shouldn't say that live because they won't let me do it. Um, just quickly then, because I want to get into you coming to Australia, because we both share that in common, coming from another country. With your book, I know it's on pause for a moment, but how is that going so far of where you're up to?
I'm up to I've done the chapter where I've got this con man to come into this. So I've done that chapter.
Yeah.
It's the next chapter where it's an because it wasn't just this con man. I had 5 people con me in a space of a few years. It was almost like I had this L on my forehead or the S for sucker. So L for loser or S for sucker. And actually, my husband made a comment just recently, and he said it was almost like you had a magnet attracting all these people that just wanted to use you.
Mm.
And I let them. I
You
let
see
them
the
because I was
stars,
so
don't they?
desperate. I was desperate. And I didn't see past my nose.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe what they were telling me because I was trying to get myself out of this issue. And unfortunately, it just got me deeper and deeper and deeper.
Are you happy to share the title of your book?
Yeah, you've got it there.
Oh, it's definitely it's staying as that though.
That's the cover.
Okay.
That's the title.
And
Yeah,
that's confirmed then.
that's confirmed. That does not change.
Good. Okay.
I just got to finish the last 4 chapters.
I was wondering if it was a working title because it wasn't published yet.
No,
Okay.
that's the title.
Just double checking. All right. Beautiful. Well, for those interested, we'll have the book. It'll be on my shelf when it's eventually published, and we'll get it up on here, and I'll update the show notes next year when you get it out, and we'll.
Well, I do have a chapter in one other book which got released a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And that became a bestseller in Canada and the US.
Nice.
But that's only a chapter, and that's called My Unforgettable, and it's just 14 women that have written that book. So each one of us have got a chapter about our different stories and motivational and stuff. So there's a little chapter there that I did.
Beautiful. Well, that's a good sign.
I can't take credit for that, but I helped.
Oh, well, it's a good sign, isn't it? It's on the right track.
I still am a bestseller, can I?
Yeah, you can. Well, technically, my book on the opening weekend on Amazon was the bestseller in the free section. So we were #1 bestseller in the opening weekend, me and Mike, with How to Lead with Purpose. So we've got the printout. We've taken a photo of it, and that's why on LinkedIn it says How to Lead with Purpose bestseller. So
well, maybe I need to put that up too now. Yeah, because it was #1 in 2 different categories in Canada and the US, and then #3 and whatever, and then
Amazing.
Yeah.
On the right track, Connie. Love it.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's get into your journey from the beginning. You came from Italy, obviously, because it was quite obvious with your second name, but you came to Australia at 11 years old.
Yes, it was 1969 February.
Wow.
So we came on a ship, beautiful ship. I'd never been outside my little town before, except for my mum and dad's town, and within half an hour of each other. So never been to a big city. So I was sad to leave my friends that I grew up with. But once I saw that ship, and it was just like this big city, a cinema, restaurant, swimming pool, theatre. That's where I spent most of my time at 11 years old. It was just like, I suppose kids love toys and candy and all that. To me, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're painting a picture here of what you it seems like you've liked all that glamorous stuff from such a young age. Where even before coming to Australia, before you saw the boat, were your parents wealthy? Were you
a black and white TV just before, a couple of years before we migrated here. And it was the first time I saw movies, and that was my dream of becoming an actress.
So that's where it began.
Yeah. So I used to watch every movie. I loved musicals. That was my favourites. Then the Westerns, of course, being at home with Dad, he loved Westerns. So I grew up with Westerns. So I've always loved that sort of life. And I think that's what attracted me to event management and dealing with A-listers, that I couldn't become an actress because my parents weren't totally against it. I did dabble into it when I was in Australia in my late teens. So on quite a number of Australian TV shows, but more as an extra, and a couple of theatre shows. But it wasn't making me money. And my full-time job was paying my bills. So I gave it up. and I started doing a lot of work and charity work with theatre companies, the Arts Centre, and that sort of stuff. There's the Australian Elizabethan Theatre Trust, the AIDS and Arts Committee, that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
So arriving in Australia at 11 years old, you grew up in Melbourne from that point onwards, was that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up in Melbourne?
The first couple of years, we rented a house in Preston,
Yeah.
and it was just so exciting because we actually had a couple of bedrooms, even though I had to share with three other girls. We still had three bedrooms, a lounge, a dining room, a kitchen, a toilet. Whereas initially we just had one room.
Ah,
Mm.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
So,
then they bought a house in Thornbury and really loved that. And then they got rid of that because it was a single fronted house, and Italians love their garden and their garages. So they moved out to Laylaw, which had a huge garden, 4-car garage, but the house was still quite small. I still had to share the bedroom with the other three girls. The boy always had his own, but us girls had to share. So that was Thornbury. And then I lasted in Laylaw for about a couple of years. So I left home about just over 23, and that's when I moved to Malvern, rented a unit there. And I met a young man whilst working at Myer and became serious with him. And then we bought a unit in just down the road from there, which was in Glen Iris.
Malvern's not a really nice place, isn't it?
It is lovely. Couldn't afford
Yeah.
to buy there at the moment, no. And then I split up with my fiance and went overseas for 2 years. So I lived in London and worked in London. And then came back, lived with mum and dad for another couple of years till I got myself off my feet, worked in a bakery, and I hated it. And then I left about 2.5 years later and started my financial business
Yeah.
and role bookkeeping. And I had some really good clients. I had some really major clients from the US, the UK, as well as Australia.
Yeah.
And then much later, I bought a house in Brunswick with my sister. And then I met David, my husband. I was 38, got married at 42, and had my one and only child at 45, and then went to jail at 61. So I do everything late.
You do that. You do that. Before we jump into the more present time of your life, let's just go back to your childhood, because your childhood was an interesting childhood, obviously moving to Australia. But if I was a fly in the wall, on the wall in your house, how did you grow up with your parents? How did that look?
Ooh, my home life was very unhappy. Dad was, he fed us. We never went hungry. But his discipline was physical. And me being the eldest child and a girl, a lot was expected of me. I didn't have a childhood at all. That's why I always said I would never get married. I would never have children, because according to me, I didn't want to be dictated by a male, but also I had my children. So why would I want children again? That's why probably I waited till 45, and that was an accident as well. And the reason why I left home at 23 is because I still got beaten at 23 and I had enough and left home.
You say you still got beat at 23. When did the beating start? Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.